Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Monday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. The Lakers use a huge effort from Anthony Davis and a lot of good work defensively as LeBron James returns and they win 116-110 over Memphis. All that next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts. This one's always free, never behind paywall. And Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where over 26,000 subscribers, Andy, are all excited about what they saw on Sunday night as the Lakers, who came into the game losing 8 of 11 against the Grizzlies. They had won 10 of 11. It seemed like nothing had to give, but yet it did. The Lakers win 116-110, led by their defense, and that is something we will get into momentarily. First, I want to let you know that today's episodes were brought to you by Robinhood. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. So, this was a game. LeBron James comes back. We'll get into that a little bit. But the Lakers cranked up the defensive intensity. I think that actually helped them on offense as well. Held Memphis to 46 points in the first half, held on to win the game. Big victory for the Lakers, 116-110 over, as I mentioned, Andy, a red-hot Memphis team.
Hey, you mentioned Memphis having played so well heading into this game. I think last I heard they were 4.5-point favorites in this game heading in on the roads. It may have been look, I mean, to some degree, I imagine that line was affected by the uncertainty about whether or not LeBron was going to play. He actually had been deemed by JJ to be a game time decision, like he was going to be warming up to see how he feels. So, between
they weren't even sure he'd be in the building on Friday when,
right.
The last time they played. So the fact, so there was a lot of uncertainty.
Right. So, and that obviously is going to affect the line beyond the fact that the Lakers have just been playing poorly of late. And even, against the Timberwolves, when their defense was some of the best they've played all season, the offense was MIA. But like you said, this was a game where the defense was established early and Anthony Davis's presence was established very early. I believe he scored the Lakers' first 4 points on back-to-back jumpers, and he was just extremely active and productive on both sides of the ball. Finishes with 40 points, 16 rebounds, got to the line 12 times, had a block. And it's interesting that the Lakers had been up 20 in this game when they were up 20, 81-61, when Anthony Davis suffered. JJ said after the game, he's not 100% sure, but thought it was a stinger. It definitely looked like a painful dead arm. But either way, AD he went into the locker room and the lead dissipated with him. They lost 11 points in that lead over 5.5 minutes. And AD coming back, I think, I'm not going to say they definitely lose the game if AD doesn't come back, but AD coming back was the thing that cemented and solidified their ability to win.
Yeah, it really stabilized what they were trying to do. And so, we've talked about this. Like, they are at a place where Anthony Davis needs to provide superstar caliber performances on a night in and night out basis. So, like superstars do. That doesn't mean 100% of the games are going to be amazing, but most of them are. And, his impact needs to be there for the Lakers to really have a chance to win on most nights. That is like step one for the Lakers on most nights to win is Anthony Davis needs to be, first team all NBA caliber Anthony Davis. And he absolutely was in this game all over the floor. And, I don't know for sure if this is it, but I would appreciate if somehow the NBA could give away a few more DPOYs to like somebody on every team the Lakers play. Because it does seem like AD really does like these matchups when he gets them, oftentimes. And Sunday night, Jaren Jackson Jr., he ends up fouling out before the end of the game, and AD just lit him up. It was
AD
40.
has traditionally owned Jaren Jackson Jr.
Yeah.
I mean, he, for what it is worth, some of his best games, like, as you were saying, he's done really well against Wembanyama, who entered this season considered the favorite to win it. He tends to save some of his best work. Ironically, some of these guys aren't the ones who can make his case as defensive player of the year because, bottling up Rudy Gobert is not going to be like, all right, man, DPOY done. But he does like to take it to these guys. So, it's a pity when a wing defender wins, those rare Marcus Smart's 1 year did nothing for AD.
What's he supposed to do with that? But, he comes in and he is obviously the core of everything the Lakers are doing defensively. It is interesting to me, like part of the reason I think the Lakers look so good in this game, obviously energy, effort. Max Christie, who we're going to talk to, really was just fantastic defensively. LeBron played with a lot more intensity in his return defensively, which I certainly want to talk about. It also helps, and this was kind of a funny thing that even JJ Redick pointed out at halftime on the broadcast in his interview before he goes back. The Lakers switched significantly less in this game than they typically have been, in part mostly because Memphis doesn't run pick and roll.
Sure.
And so when you're not being put in those situations, you don't switch as much. And, they were able to follow their principles really well. Redick was kind of as effusive in his praise of what they did defensively as in any game that they've had this season in terms of doing what it was that they were expected to do and doing it with effort and consistency. But I don't know how many more. It's a pick and roll league, and so Memphis is certainly the exception to the rule. But even if they can't do it quite this way every night, if they play with this level of intensity defensively, and they can figure out ways, to highlight somebody like Christie, and they can get 15% more from LeBron. Which I want to talk about, if not tonight, this week, of like what that would look like. That is a formula for them to be good enough defensively to at least get themselves back into a competitive state.
I mean, as the everydayers who've heard me bitching on just about every single show about the Lakers switching damn near everything, it's not just the fact that they were switching so automatically that bothered me in terms of strategy, even though I don't think as a strategy they were always doing it in ways that benefited them, benefited the personnel that they had, stuff like that. It was also because, and this is something that even after I had said this, I'd heard James Worthy say it, I heard Robert Horry say it, like other people from Spectrum Sportsnet, the Lakers television partner, in their postgame coverage. It's the way they were switching. It's the way that they were doing it with so little effort, so little intensity, so little physicality upon any screen, stuff like that was leading into I felt like, complacent and almost submissive attitude in the way they played defense. Like, there were times where their switching felt like dance choreography with the players that they were defending, and like everybody's going to their perfectly prearranged stations, like really smoothly, and you don't want to ruin anything by, I don't know, bumping into the guy that you're guarding. Like it led to a mentality that I felt like was missing, regardless of when they were switching, the execution of it, whatever. It just felt like a mentality of, I am not taking responsibility, accountability, or really putting any type of onus on my responsibilities defensively.
Right. And so
that's been one of my problems with
it. We'll see what happens when the Lakers, what transfers and what doesn't. Like, they want them to play more physically. They want them to battle harder. with those. So maybe a game where you don't have to switch very much and you get that physicality will transfer over when they play a game where they are going to have to face that and switch more. We'll talk a little bit about LeBron's return and what that looked like, and a little more about AD, sporting cast, and we got to talk some Max Christie before it's all over. We'll get to it next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for just $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For specific product-specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing requires risks. Rates may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC.
Locked on Lakers is also brought to you by BetterHelp. Look, for some people, the holidays is a great time, family, friends, all kinds of, parties, whatever it might be. But for a lot of people, it can be a very challenging time of the year, whether you're dealing with, certain reminders, a family member has passed, and, the holidays become challenging there, or maybe some loneliness, whatever it might be. There are a lot of people for whom the opportunity to talk to somebody, just to get a chance to communicate effectively, share your experiences, share your feelings, can be very beneficial. If you've ever benefited from therapy, the holidays can be a real time. I'm sure for a lot of people that it's really come in handy. And so BetterHelp, if you're thinking of giving therapy a try, if now is a time that you need a little bit of an extra boost, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, suited to your schedule. You fill out a brief questionnaire, you get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. So if this is a time of year that is maybe filled with some joy, but also a little bit of stress or a little bit of challenge, you can find comfort this December with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get $10 off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Obviously, Andy, the return of LeBron James is going to make a difference. His performances this year have been, I think it's fair to say, all over the place. And the performance of the team this year when he's played has been all over the place. Significantly more negative in balance than it has really ever been in LeBron's time with the Lakers. And part of it, at least this year, is they're in a real difficult spot offensively generating stuff. But they're also, obviously you need LeBron, and they're in a challenging spot defensively, in part because of LeBron. And I thought in this game, and I want to explore this during the week for sure, and we can do it a little bit now too. This was like a formula that I think can kind of work, where, he turned the ball over a little bit too much, and a little bit of rust is expected given how little he's played actually in the last week or two. So, but 18, 8 and 8 from LeBron. Like, you're not getting nothing offensively. He is part of your attack. He's moving the ball. He's making some great passes. He's crashing the glass. He's running the floor. He's a significant, but you're not relying on him for 35. Big difference. And I'm wondering if the Lakers can, I'm not talking about even so much limiting his minutes, but limiting the need for him to score a ton. If that could be what allows them to get 15% more on the other side of the ball, just enough to make it so he goes from, quite frankly, a liability in most games to neutral in most games. And then you still have, you could see it in the first half on Sunday, Andy, he's still got the capacity to become much better than neutral when he needs to be or wants to be. But that's not something you can do, for 9 games in a row in January. It's just that's not practical.
That was something actually that I talked about maybe a few weeks ago when we were doing a few shows about LeBron's usage and how much it had gone up during that period where, frankly, he was really struggling. And, his usage had basically flipped with AD's, where he had the highest usage on the team. It was resembling more and more what we've always seen from LeBron. And during that period, the offense was suffering. LeBron's personal performances were suffering. And one of the things I said was, I want to see that usage get lowered in exchange for more defense. It'll be interesting, though, to see how and if LeBron can maintain that in games where he doesn't have 2 weeks off, or maybe this gets replicated on Thursday against Sacramento, but where he has 3 games off. Like once the actual
3 days,
3 days, excuse me, restarts, like once you're back in the swing of how an NBA season actually works and that schedule, can LeBron maintain the type of focus and energy that he had defensively tonight? Because honestly, I thought his defense was better tonight than his offense.
I would agree.
And a lot of his execution, like when you talk about that rust, there were several possessions where LeBron, quite frankly, pounded the crap out of the ball and was he looked like he was not in the swing of everybody else, which is understandable. He hasn't played in a while, but where offensively, I thought he was more of a detriment to what they were doing than defensively. Like defensively, I thought he was super engaged, and maybe he saw the way that they played against Minnesota. You don't want to be the guy that returns and ruins something that is not just moving a little bit in a better direction, but frankly has to. Like if they're going to go anywhere this season, they simply have to be better.
They need to be an average defensive team at the least, and they've been well below that. And so I just, I don't know how. I mean, they were better against Portland. Atlanta was not great, but it's incredible.
I thought they were more engaged, and if they didn't necessarily execute
incrementally, they were better. But but the thing about it
Timberwolves were legitimately good, particularly.
Yeah, I would agree. And the difference between Sunday's game and Friday's game was that the offense was not inept. It wasn't brilliant. It wasn't going to remind everyone of the prime Warriors or anything like that. But it was
the ball over 21 times.
Right. I mean, they turned the ball over too much. The shot making wasn't great. Like you said, LeBron had too many possessions where he might have dribbled too much. Sometimes the flow gets messed up. They are always putting people out on the floor. You almost always have 1 or 2 players on the floor who are not great offensive options. And so it's never going to look, it may not always look great, but when you play with that kind of defensive energy, it raises their movement. And that, to me, what separated the quality of their play offensively on Friday or Sunday versus Friday is the amount of cutting, the amount of baskets they created in transition just by crashing the glass. Being able to set up Cam Reddish for easy dunks and easy backdoors because you're the rest of your offense has enough motion that it's easy to lose somebody like Reddish. That's how Jared Vanderbilt used to score. It's like you leverage the competence of the offense to your advantage. It doesn't work as well in the playoffs, but fine, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. And when they produce energy defensively, they are much more likely to be able to produce the kind of motion offensively that's going to get them easier buckets from more players. And the more players who can score, Andy, that is the other part of this formula about not having to rely on LeBron. It's not about LeBron goes from 27 to whatever, and Chris and Reaves goes from 15 to 26. It's going to be 5 more points from Reaves and 4 more from Christie and a couple buckets from Cam Reddish, who had 8 on Sunday. It makes a huge difference. And maybe some nights D'Lo, who wasn't a huge offensive factor night, although he played fine. Maybe some nights he gives you 18. It's like you can absorb it around the rest of the roster, but other guys have to be able to produce, and you need to move for that.
Okay, here's a very simple, succinct way of putting it. And it's not the highest bar that they're going to need to clear on every night. But given what we've seen from the bench this year, it's a start. 5 players played off the bench. All 5 scored.
Yes.
Like even Christian Coloco scored. He had a point at the line. But like everybody scored. And again, that may feel like a ridiculously low bar to clear, except it has not always been cleared this season, even semi-regularly.
No, it is in fact a ridiculously low bar to clear. It's just that the Lakers tend to show up to games with a shovel and dig under the bar and still go under. And a big part of this formula of being better defensively and finding just enough points from different guys that they're a threat and they need to be guarded and all that is Max Christie. And he was a huge part of Sunday's win. I think a little bit, certainly defensively, but I think actually a little bit on both sides. We'll talk about it next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel. You can tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, $5, and you get $150 in bonus bets if you win. So just find something that feels incredibly obvious. Put down just an Abe Lincoln. Boom. If you win, $150 in bonus bets. And great news, the FanBook Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place so they can help you along. Like if you feel like you are anticipating where a game is going, but just want to confirm those hunches, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you'd place your bets. So it's all streamlined information for you. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you get started again with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
So we were discussing last week, Andy, different options the Lakers could have off, in terms of who starts, who doesn't, with Dalton Connect seeming to hit a bit of a wall in terms of how he's being defended. The shots cooled off a little bit and all of that. And with him, if he's not scoring 18 to 20 points a game or a threat to do it, his defensive shortcomings are really noticeable. So what do you do in that case? They have been starting Gabe Vincent. JJ Redick has. On Sunday, he swapped with LeBron back in the lineup. He swapped Vincent out and put Max Christie in that 5th spot.
And he talked before the game real quick, JJ, because he was asked about the starting lineup, assuming LeBron is back. Have you decided what you want to do? And JJ said that he had not decided what he wants moving forward, or at least wasn't going to commit publicly to it at the very least. But he did say that they were looking to try to find a point of attack defender to be part of that mix in the starting 5, which, if nothing else, and I don't mean this as shade, it's just obvious, that's code for D'Angelo Russell is not going to be going back in the starting lineup. We're not going to be using the opening night lineup, the 23-5 lineup that Redick preseason basically in so many words said that's the obvious way to go. JJ wasn't returning to obvious.
And, the idea, your choices, if that's the case, are essentially Reddish and Christie. I get to some degree why you would start with Reddish. I mean, he has been in the lineup, and Cam
played well.
Played great. He played a great game, I thought, on Sunday, doing what he's
really quick with Cam, just because this was something that was being asked of him last year to be this defense first, very disruptive, often on ball defender as his lane. Last year, I think he accepted it. Like last year, I felt like Cam was trying to do whatever the asks were, but for whatever reason, whether lack of comfort, the way Darvin was breaking it down, the other guys on the court with him, whatever. It was, the highs were really high, but the lows could be very low. This year, Cam has been just much more consistent and comfortable with it. And for the most part, I think his role, what he's being asked to do, he's doing it pretty well.
Yeah. And it's a role that is a little problematic for the Lakers because, he's leaning into the defense, he's leaning into the activity, but the offensive limitations are there. And, Sunday, his activity was very high, and that led to a couple bucks. You were rolling to the basket, get out on the break, and all that kind of stuff. But
there was one sequence where Cam got I think a deflection and a steal, and he started taking the ball up court and decided to dial up a step back three that was airballed. I'm guessing that is not what JJ wants for Cam in those situations. That maybe a possession or two later, Cam got another steal, just took it straight to the rack for a dunk. Beautiful. Keep it simple, my man.
Right. We're not here for fancy Cam Reddish. The happy medium here. The biggest, obviously, there's a difference in size between Reddish and Christie, and so it depends on to some degree. Some of this could depend on who the assignment is. Mm-hmm. In this case, it's John Morant, who is a little guy and really quick. And so that was who Max was assigned to. JJ said after the game, I told him just make his life as hard as possible. I did an excellent job with that.
Yeah.
Ja finished 6 of 21 from the floor. And so that is, you're doing great work with that and he turned the ball over 7 times. John Morant is one of the more potent offensive guards in the league. So you could see the defense, you could see the work, particularly again, point of attack, one-on-one, all that kind of stuff. With Christie, there is some versatility there. He can obviously guard point guards. He can really, I think, guard all the way down to small forwards. Anything bigger bodies are going to give him a little bit of trouble. I floated this last week as a potentially good option, and I think you didn't mind it. Somebody and as a Max Christie fan, I didn't think. I think you had said last week you didn't think they'd do it.
Oh no, I didn't object to it at all.
I wonder, and I just wonder if they'll stick with it. Because this, to me, the lineup that they started tonight, if you're not going to start D'Lo again, and I don't have a problem with it, they don't. If this is going to be, if you're choosing starters where D'Lo isn't one of them, this to me is the lineup that makes the most sense.
Yeah,
you get the best combination of defensive versatility with some degree, and you can deploy Reddish more strategically throughout a game. A little bit more against second units where the offensive shortcomings aren't quite as problematic, and really just use him as a 15-minute a night energy guy, which I think is much more aligned to the ability to get the most out of him without subjecting him to having to do things and play a role that really goes a step beyond him. This is, I think, the most effective way to have Reddish be a useful player on the team.
Yeah, he seems to be really settling into this lane very well. And as far as Christie goes, I mean, first of all, there were so many sequences where he stayed with Ja. It was interesting. Ja's first real drive against Christie led to a foul, and I think getting to the line, that was basically as good as it got.
Yeah,
against Max. From there, it was really Max winning this matchup, and he more than. And
it's it's almost as if it took a second, and not to be Ja is NBA point guards are quick human beings. These are, and Ja by that standard is quicker than most. He is so explosive, and those first step. So I mean, the first couple of possessions when you first see, okay, it's easy to get beat on that first one, that second one, but then he adjusted really well. He recalibrated, and he made his life extraordinarily difficult throughout the game. And it was just a really impressive performance. And I also wonder if, and he is not the only player like this, Andy, that if Christie settles into a role where he knows he's going to play 25 minutes a night, possibly more, I think he might be more comfortable being a little more assertive offensively, knowing that he's got to kind of do it some. They're not relying on him for it, but like he's a part of the flow, part of and like, I think the offense might come around a little more too if he's in a situation where he's playing more.
Well, I mean, he came into this season having gotten paid, and he looked, I mean, Max seems like just in general a very earnest, responsible young man. You know what I mean? Like and he's seemed that way since he was a rookie. He has always sounded incredibly mature for his age. Like if you ask him questions, he sounds like somebody who's 32 as opposed to 22.
He sounds like your CPA.
Yeah. And because of that, I imagine there was an element of I need to justify this, like from a a sense of like responsibility. And I because of also that nature, Max seems like somebody that when he eventually got benched and was out of the rotation for a handful of games or whatever it was, he seems like somebody that would take the time to study what went wrong and really like take the inventory and try to come at it from a smarter place, because he seems like somebody that, among other things, wants to play smart.
Well, I was about to say, I think honestly, I think he was playing too polite at the beginning of the year. He was still trying to I'm very steady. I'm going to be, and like
that's what I'm talking about with the responsibility.
It was just right. I mean, but like, I don't think he was trying to. Usually, when you say players trying to justify, they try to do too much. I think Max was almost trying to consciously avoid being like, "Look, I got to take 15 shots now. I got to like." I think he was being too polite, and he sat down and he came back. Those first couple games, especially, you see it a little bit less now. But with some of the assertiveness has stayed, but he came back those first couple games when he got back in the rotation. He was playing with an edge that you just didn't see from him at any real point at this point through in his career, and it served him very well. And so I think just capturing a little bit of that lack of politeness, that lack of deferring to what's right, like whatever. I'm not saying it means he's going to make the wrong play, but it does translate to me. I think it translates into a little bit more of an attitude of it's okay if I call my number. It's okay if I put the ball on the floor and go to the basket and create a play or make a cut or all that stuff. I don't have to step back and feel like that's how like you're really being a team player. Sometimes being a team player is asserting yourself and being more forceful. And I think he was so ticked that he wasn't playing that when he came back, he found that thing. That's how I read it. I could be wrong.
I don't know. I mean, I over the course of the week, if there's an availability to both get to practice and also get to talk with Max, like some availability, I'd love to ask him about some of this. But one final thing too that I've noticed with Max that also played into tonight, whether you're talking about Jaren Jackson Jr. or Zach Edey, whose elbows kept managing to find Austin Reaves' face. But
Reaves said afterwards he didn't think any of it was intentional.
It wasn't intentional.
And I agree, but that guy is so big, he's going to need to learn to get a handle on where his body parts are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he's going to hurt some people. He's too big and too strong.
Yeah, I mean, his elbows are made of cement or something.
He's a huge, enormous man.
Christie is the best on this team as far as guys who are like 6'7" and under at fronting bigger guys. Like we saw this tonight with Edey and with Jaren Jackson Jr. We've seen it with Wembanyama. Like Christie is really good at, and I think this gets to a defensive mentality, but also his willingness to be physical. Like he is the best on this team in terms of the wings or smaller guys that when they get matched up against one of these bigger, I mean, like you're giving up 50 pounds and 8 or 9 inches in figuring out, okay, what do I do with this?
He's just one of their best. He's their best, most versatile wing defender, period.
Yeah.
And when he plays, it makes, it's not surprising that, the defense has improved a little bit with Reaves back, because he does. It's all relative. He can help them a little bit, and Reaves bumps down a notch. If you can put a better wing defender above him, now he's guarding secondary players instead of the best player all the time. That's going to make a difference. If LeBron is 15 to 20% better, that's going to make the perimeter defense. I mean, all of it is, there's a ripple effect to all of it, but I feel like if you are trying to find a defender to keep in the lineup, this is the way to do it. And you're getting, even if he can't quite guard the same size as somebody like Reddish can, or whatever, you're going to get more out of it. And so I think that this is what they'll try going forward, at least a little bit. But
I mean, there's certainly Max's last few games, there's been no reason to take him out of the starting lineup.
Can't figure out why.
Nope. He made his case tonight.
So Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where we can go hang out with over 26,000 subscribers. We get you a lot more a week with a lot of days off. So plenty of big issues to talk about, including this one. Lakers will almost certainly have at least one practice, possibly two.
Plus December 15th. We've now started. Some players are now available to be traded.
We're a day. The 15th came and went, and like Jonas Valanciunas isn't a Laker yet, but
Dennis Schroeder's a Warrior.
Dennis Schroeder is a Warrior, and we'll talk about this on for Tuesday's show. The price for that should be encouraging to Lakers fans, so we'll get into that for sure. Quick reminder: should have mentioned earlier in the show. Keep an eye out for the postcast with Dave Pele. Hopefully by now you've already heard it or you saw it in your feed, and do sign up for the newsletter and get all of this stuff delivered right to you. We'll see everyone on Tuesday.